Braden Blair, and on behalf of Parley's Diesel Performance and Utah Biodiesel Supply, today we're going to talk about biodiesel. We're going to talk about how it's made, how we use it, why we use it. We're going to make a tiny batch. We're going to do something called a titration, which is just a fancy word for seeing how acidic old oil is. And then we're going to actually go to a production lab where we will produce a very large batch of biodiesel. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about what biodiesel is and what it isn't, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. First of all, biodiesel is an alternative fuel to diesel fuel. It's typically made from organic oils. If you look down here, I have all sorts of oils that it can be made from. But I want to show you what most oils start out as. These are tiny little seeds, and they came from a soybean plant. And soybean oil is the most common oil in the United States. We make more soybeans here than anything in the world, any other plant or any other area. And they're just tiny seeds, and they squish them. And once they squish them and they do a couple other things to them, we get oil. And if you walk into most stores and you pick up a bottle that says vegetable oil, on the back of it, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be made out of soybean oil. And that's because we just have so much here. But soybean oil isn't the only thing you can make biodiesel out of. You can actually make it out of, so we've talked about soybeans. You can make it out of corn oil. In the Midwest of the United States, we see an awful lot of corn being grown and stuff, and we've been hearing about ethanol. Well, you can actually also crush those seeds and make biodiesel out of it as well, because you can get corn oil from it. We also have canola oil. Canola is my personal favorite. The reason is it has incredible cold flow properties. We'll talk a little bit about cold flow properties and biodiesel and some of the things that we need to deal with, especially in the cold regions like Utah, where we actually see a lot of snow on the ground and it gets cold. You can actually make it out of safflower oil, peanut oil. This is my other favorite because the biodiesel that you make and when you burn it in a vehicle smells incredible. And then good old olive oil. As you can see, my olive oil is a solid brick. This is important to talk about and learn about, because if you're going to put something like this in your diesel pickup, we need to know what its gel point is so that we don't leave you stranded out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so biodiesel basically is where we take any organic oil and we're going to chemically modify it to thin it down. Oils are made up of these really weird things called triglycerides. And triglycerides is just a fancy word for a molecule where you have a glycerin backbone and you have 3 what are called fatty acid chains. In fact, if you look on the back of most candy bars or anything that's made of oil, it'll say triglycerides in its description. And that's just their nice handy way of hiding the fact that it's made of oil, which is bad for your body. What we do when we make biodiesel is we go in and chemically alter this molecule. Now, before I get into that, I want to talk about the difference between running a diesel engine on straight vegetable oil, we call these straight vegetable oils, and biodiesel, because it's a large difference. Okay. First of all, in about 1903, a man named Rudolf Diesel invented an engine that all of us love. It's called the diesel engine. Well, it so happened that after he invented that engine, the Paris World's Exposition decided that they wanted to have his engine shown at the fair. And if any of you have done some research, you may have heard that diesel engines can run on peanut oil. Well, the story goes that they had this huge agriculture industry where they produced a lot of peanuts. His engine was produced to run on a wide range of fuels, not just peanut oil like everyone leads you to believe. And they said, hey, we'd like you to come and show your engine, but would you run it on peanut oil? And being the smart entrepreneur that he was, he said, you bet. And so there's a story propagated that diesel engines can run on straight vegetable oil and primarily peanut oil. It's all over the internet, and it's true. The problem is that straight vegetable oil, while it works well in diesel engines and it'll run, let me show you out of another thing, is fairly thick. It's kind of viscous, and as it gets cold, it'll turn into a brick. I don't know about you, but I don't think a Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Isuzu engine is going to pass a brick of oil through its fuel injection system. The real answer is it won't. And so what you see is most people either will modify the fuel system in their diesel vehicles to heat the fuel lines, heat the tank, so that they can run straight vegetable oil. Straight vegetable oil is where we actually take the oils themselves and we put a second tank in the vehicle and we heat that tank either with electricity from the battery or radiator fluid or what have you, and we get the oils nice and hot, because once you heat oils up, they become very, very runny. This is actually some canola oil that I've heated up, which we'll be using a little bit later in the show. But notice that it's a lot more runny than our brick. And so what that allows them to do is run these oils through a diesel engine, and they run great. And it's called straight vegetable oil. There's also another way to do it, where we run straight vegetable oils in diesels, and that's to, instead of modifying the fuel system or the engine or the fuel injectors or anything like that, we're actually going to modify the oil. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Biodiesel is where we actually chemically modify this oil. So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to do this. So we'll change over here to our board and we'll be right back.